All right, by now we know where to go to create a resource. We can see that the virtual machines are the 1 and 2 of the features and web app is number 3. Instead of going that way, I'm going to go into the web category. And we can see web app listed here, but we can also see something called an app service plan. Now, a web app requires an app service plan to run. You can think of the web app as being the application and the app service plan as being the hosting. You can have multiple web apps running on the same app service plan. So the app service plan is where the resources are constrained. This is what you're paying for. And then you can have as many web apps as you can fit into those resources running on the same app service plan. So we're going to start by creating an app service plan. Now we don't have to do it this way. If we were to go and create a web app, we could choose or create a web app service plan at the same time. But I'm going to separate it out for the purposes of a teaching here. So we're going to create a first app service plan. Very simple. There's only the basics tab, and then you've got tags and creation. So the app service plan, again, like I said, it's hosting. It's where the cost is being incurred. So let's create a new resource group. I'm going to call this AZ-SJD app plan. Now, again, this resource group, same as the other sections, has to be unique for this subscription. Now, we just have to have app service plan details. I'm going to call it the same, AZ-SJD app plan. Now we can see right away that we're being asked to choose an operating system. There are going to be limitations. If we choose Linux, we're going to be blocked from running some apps. If we choose Windows, we're going to be blocked from running some apps. So you really do have to have an understanding of what types of apps you're going to run. Now we'll talk about that more in the web app part of the video, the next video I create. But briefly, you can imagine Linux apps have certain languages like Ruby or Java, I believe, that do not run on Windows. And then Windows apps have things like ASP.NET, the non-cross-platform version, ASP.NET 4 and 3, that do not have Linux versions. And so now there's a lot of stuff that's cross-platform. I think Node.js, PHP, and .NET Core, things like that are cross-platform, but some things are language-specific. So since I'm going to do .NET Core, I'm going to leave it as Linux. It could be Windows as well because it's cross-platform. Now the region you choose it in, same as virtual machines. You want to choose something close to your target audience. If your users are all based in Chicago, you want this to be in the central US. If it's based out of New York, maybe you want East US, etc. There is a pricing implication. So if you choose Japan, you're going to be paying more for this resource than if you choose US Central, for instance. And I believe even US East and US Central have different pricing. You're going to have to go to the pricing calculator and find a different pricing. Now, the last major decision you make is under what type of hardware it runs. Now, we're going to see right now, you do not get to choose the actual hardware, but it does constrain you. It's intended to constrain you. Let's see that there's 3 separated tabs here. One is for dev test workloads, one is for production workloads, and one is isolated hardware. We'll deal with dev test first. Now, there's a note here that says the first basic B1 core for Linux is free for the first 30 days. So there's a 30-day free plan under B1. There is a free plan. So for Linux, we don't have the shared plan, which we'll see under Windows. There's a different plan available, the D plan. But for Linux, you do have a free plan, and you can see you get 1 gigabyte of memory, you get 60 minutes per day of CPU time, and you get 1 gigabyte of disk storage. So it's a very constrained amount of space, storage, memory, and CPU time, but it's free. So you can certainly run a WordPress website, a very low traffic website, but you can run a WordPress website for free forever in Azure using this app service. Now, I wouldn't recommend this even for development purposes. It's probably too constraining for most development applications. What you're going to maybe want is the B plan for a dev test workload. And you've got B1, B2, and B3. Now, the way that Azure talks about performance is based on these ACUs, or Azure Compute Units. Azure Compute Units is it doesn't really represent anything actual other than the relative performance. So whereas B1 is a 100 ACU performance plan, B2 should deliver twice the performance at 200, and B3 is double B2 at 400. And the pricing, not accidentally, is exactly double as well. So you're basically getting the same price for the same level of performance at all the different app service tiers. Now, there are different benefits. So at F1, you can't even set your own domain name. At F2, you can have a custom, B1, I'm sorry, you have your custom domain, even SSL certificate, and you can have a scaling. So I don't know if you're running production instances on B1, probably, hopefully not, but you can scale up if performance is an issue. And you do get more disk space, 10 gigabytes at the B1 level. I believe all the Bs get this 10 gigabytes. So that's the dev test level. For production workloads, we have standard and premium, S1 and P1 V2. The pricing goes up accordingly. So we were in the dev test world going from $16 to $65. In the production world, you go from $88 up to $400 a month. Yeah, for this, okay? So now we can see the pricing is a little different. For standard plans, you are getting a little bit more memory, 1.75 gigabytes, the same ACU performance as the basic B1, so only 100 ACUs, but it's more memory. It's running on, it's telling us an A series equivalent. So we don't know the exact hardware, but that's what it's indicating, A series. Going down here, we get 50 gigabytes of storage. So going from 10 to 50 as soon as we get into standard level. And we get things like backups, staging slots, auto scale. Standard plan is the smallest plan you can have that has automatic scaling. You can do manual scaling in the B series. And a traffic manager for going across regions. So we can see for 100, 200, 400, the price goes up, the memory goes up. And then we get to the premium plans. We are getting even more scale instances, so up to 20. So there was 10 for the standard plan and 20 for premium. More staging slots, more frequent backups, and way more storage. Now, like I said at the beginning, you can run as many web apps as you can. Like if you're on the P1 plan, you can run 10 web apps under that if those web apps are not using too many resources, right? So for that $100 a month, you can have 10 separate web apps with 10 different URLs, all sharing resources, and it's up to you. So for this example, I'm going to start off on the B1 series plan, and then we can show you how to scale this. So this first app service is going to be a B1. Now I can set tags just like with virtual machines. I can review and create. So here's a Linux basic B1 plan, 100 ACUs, 1.75 gigabytes memory. I'm going to click create, and then we'll have nothing much other than a hosting area for our platform as a service web apps.